The heavyweight division has seen men come and go in competitive opportunities. We've seen the best of what the division can offer as far as the future. And on Saturday, December 7th, it was no different. Because from Wembley, we had another Queensberry Magnificent 7 card. And one of the heavyweights that we're going to talk about here is trying to get back on the horse. So when David Adeleye took on Solomon Dacres, it was an opportunity for both men to take a step forward in their careers. And it was exciting with an abrupt ending. Let's talk about what happened in this heavyweight bout. The Magnificent 7, a Queensberry promotion where Frank Warren has put on top billing fights cards from the UK, which takes an abundance of their young talent and showcases them all together, various weight divisions, and giving the audiences a look at the young talent that's out there. And it was no different when they had their next Magnificent 7 event this past Saturday, December 7th. It was a card that was held at Wembley Arena, and it was rocking because the talents that were there were people that the fight crowd knew who they were. Men who had had good amateur careers, men who had been pretty darn good world contending fighters, fighters who had had title shots, and fighters who have been involved in step-up matches. And so this was an opportunity for a number of them to step up yet again. And so as this card was put together, and on this night, we saw certain talents come to the forefront. and it was enjoyable. And what we're talking about this time around, the heavyweights. We're going to talk about the likes of Solomon Dacres and David Adeleye. These two men came together, and there was a lot of similarities between the talent as they came into this fight. Both men 6'4", 6'5". Both men athletically gifted. One is a more outgoing personality in Adeleye. Solomon seems to be a guy who kind of grinds it out, and once his train gets rolling down the track, he becomes a juggernaut. No pun intended. However, on this night, things started a great deal faster than either man would know. Well, maybe one of them did. We're talking about the likes of Adeleye, who came out and he was aggressive. Now, both men are young and have great punching power. Dacres is a little bit older at 31, and Adeleye is 28. Coming off of a fight where he lost to Fabio Wardley back in October of 2023. Thought to believe at that time that that was a step-up fight for Fabio Wardley, because Adeleye, who had had a string of knockouts, was kind of touted as the next man up as far as UK heavyweight talents toward contention. And when he lost to Wardley, it was one of those situations where Fabio kind of took him apart systematically. It was a 7th round stoppage. And throughout that battle, we saw the fact that Wardley just took the fight to Adeleye. I had remarked that it seemed like he even may have taken the fighting spirit from Adeleye, who was so embarrassed to be on the canvas and being systematically broken down. He kind of stuck his tongue out at Wardley as a kid, saying, nah, you didn't hurt me, but he was hurt. Now, when it comes to Dacres, he's coming off of 2 fights with Michael Webster. November 2023 fight where he won a majority decision. The fight was a little close. However, it was the next bout where he fought him in July of this year, and he stopped him. And when he stopped Webster, it was in the 7th round as well. He had been down in the 5th. And Dacres looked like a man who was really ready to take the next step. So they put him in against Adeleye. Now, he came into that fight with 9 wins, no losses, but only 3 KOs. So the real deal, as he's nicknamed, was going to have to get into this fight with Adeleye and kind of take him a few rounds before he begins to break him down. But David didn't have a few rounds. David was in a situation where he wanted to impress. And with his new coach and trainer, I believe that the game plan was to jump on Dacres right away and not let him get going. Something similar to what happened when Fabio Wardley took on Big Frage Clark. And when you saw it, as far as his record, David entered this fight with a record of 12-1 with 12 KOs. So he had been stopping his opponents straight off the bat. And it's amazing that Dacres came in and wasn't mindful of what was going to possibly take place. And so what we had was a 1st round destruction where Adeleye brutalized Solomon Dacres, stopped him. It was an impressive performance, but it was still not the type of fighter like Fabio Worley or even a Big Frage Clark. But to get back on the winning track, to go in there against another young, talented fighter, as I've stated so many times before, the UK fighters now are doing things that the US fighters used to do, but have kind of seemingly fallen off. And that's okay, because if you want to watch quality boxing, you watch these men for who are ready and willing to step up. And that's what we saw here. Dacres could be back. It was an embarrassing loss for him. That left hook from Adeleye was brutal. It caught him on the tip of his forehead and knocked his equilibrium off. And though he tried to get up, the referee just kind of waved that fight off because his balance was totally shot in that moment. Similar to how when Mike Tyson landed his hook to the forehead against Trevor Berbick many moons ago. So what's next for Adeleye? With what is going on in Queensberry and Frank's camp of heavyweights, there are plenty of names that he can kind of get himself into the mix. But what I would like to see is he take on the type of opposition that can get him rounds. That's important because we know that you can punch. Punchers, dime a dozen. However, fighters, boxers, guys who can show skill to go along with that amazing dexterity, which he has. He's got great hand speed and he's athletic. But we need to build that psyche. We need to build that spirit. And through more quality opposition, that's how that can come for him. And I do believe that David Adeleye can bounce back, but he has to want it for himself. But what do you think? This is Stormy B, man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know your thoughts about David Adeleye and what could be next for him after this performance. Will he be ready to make the next step to become a world contending type fighter? Leave comments and let's discuss. I believe that he can do it, but what about you? Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.